I love Montana, and I love a mountain vacation in the summer. We spend our summers at the Jersey Shore, where my husband has a lifetime of friends and memories, and it's absolutely great. Love, love, love our friends down here. But the truth is, I'm not a beach person. I don't like the sea or the sun or the sand or the sharks or the bugs. And I love that my family loves it. But I, at heart, am much more of a mountain gal. From the time I was a little girl growing up in Syracuse, New York, to right now, what I've always really wanted to be was a cowgirl. I wanted to have a horse. My mom told me I was going to get one if I moved from Syracuse to Albany when I was 10, and she did not provide. And this trip, I even managed to find a semi-replica of the little shirt that I wore for an entire year of my young life around 1976, complete with cowgirl fringe and snaps. It was amazing. For those of you listening to this, you can check it out on YouTube, where I have posted the similarity in the shirts. Score! I also changed my teeth since then. Anyway, it's what I always wanted to be. And so I love going to the mountains. And one of the things I love about the mountain vacation is how active it is, right? It's like active with a bit of risk associated with many of the activities. Risk or, just physical challenge. Now, one of the things I don't like about the beach, I don't like sitting on the beach for hours making small talk. I don't like small talk at all. I'm not good at it. I'm not one of those women who can easily shift from subject to subject. Maybe it's this job. I can do it well in an interview, but I can't, I'm abrupt. So I'm not good at small talk. But in the mountains, you don't sit around making small talk. You move, you hike, you camp, you raft, you do things you, or at least I, would never regularly do in the Northeast, at least, like fly fish. There's an element of the unknown, the unfamiliar, of the slightly dangerous. Here's a picture of me catching my big fish. There's a rainbow trout. It's thrilling. But the other thing about being in the mountains is all that fresh air illuminates quite a few profundities about life and its meaning. And that was indeed the case for us. I told you about some of the things I learned after Thatcher, our youngest, was injured on the ski mountain back in March. Like, what matters in our limited time here, in my belief, is those people who are within 15 feet of you. Pretty much everything and everyone that matters is within 15 feet of you. Nature, risk, and the removal of most material objects can have the effect of clarifying complex life matters for a person, right? Like the fresh air makes you think more clearly. And when we got there last weekend, the first thing we did was immediately go on an overnight camp. We rode horses, all 5 of us, about 2 hours to the campsite. And we spent the afternoon exploring, painting sticks. That was something we used to do when we camped all the time when I was a kid. Sitting by the campfire and singing songs. Sleeping in the tent was fine. It was fine. But my daughter, Yardley, was recovering from a cold. Oh my God, we barely got a wink of sleep. Have you ever had this situation where you're in the room with your child who's ailing in some way? Finally, she got over right by me. And the child was coughing up my nostrils all night long. The next morning, she's like, "Oh, can I have a sip of your water?" And she goes, "I probably shouldn't because I'm sick." I'm like, "Are you kidding? You just coughed off my nostrils for 12 hours. Here you go." But, I'm sure you've been there if you have kids. Riding horses in Montana, by the way, is nothing like riding them in the Northeast. Before we went out there, we took our kids for a lesson. They haven't done a lot of horse riding. My daughter's done a little bit more than my sons, but we took them for a lesson. We went out there. This is in New Jersey. It was an hour. Split children walking around a corral on one horse, led by a rope by the owner. It was that is not horseback riding. It was a totally experience out west where they do make you sign a waiver, but they're like, you don't need to wear a helmet. Nobody really wears one. You can just wear your hat, cowboy hat. We did make our little guy wear one. And you're jumping through creeks and rivers. Your horse is up to its belly trying to get through the water. You're going up these steep inclines and steep declines on rocky ground where the horse could slip it. I mean, it's scary. It's scary, but everybody does it. And there's sort of a lifetime in their life of experience telling you this is relatively safe. Later in the week, we went fly fishing, which I absolutely love. I showed you my rainbow trout, but that was not the most exciting thing I caught. I cast my little fly fishing line into the water. I got something on it. I pulled, and do you know what I pulled up? I pulled up a 3-foot snake, a snake on my fly fishing rod. I managed to capture a picture of it after we got it off of the rod and reel. We were out there with like a guide to show us where to stand and how to do it, because I don't really know how to fly fish. And he was helping my soon-to-be sister-in-law, Sharon, at the time, so he couldn't see me. So I'm screaming, going, "Oh my God, I caught a snake!" And the guide, of course, is like, "You didn't catch a snake." I'm like, "I caught a snake." He said, "You sure it's not a twig?" I said, "It's moving. It's squiggling on the line. It's not a twig." So the guy came over and got it off, and I said in the retelling, I was going to say he defanged it. So he defanged it, though it was only a garter snake. So. Anyway, believe it or not, mine was not the most exciting fly fishing adventure in the family. My son Thatcher was out there fishing, and this is, Montana and Alaska are the only 2 states with grizzly bears. They also have black bears, and apparently they also have blonde bears, because here is the blonde bear. This is a growing black bear. Look at this. It's a small guy. The guy thought maybe this was like a teenager, if it were a cub, it would have been with its mama. But when they get a little bit older, they leave their moms. And there he was, swimming right by my Thatcher in the water. It's crazy, crazy stuff. Then came ziplining, whitewater rafting. By the way, we used Montana whitewater for both excursions, and I definitely recommend them. And no, they're not paying me to say that. They're just great. So, it's always hard to find. Here we are on the whitewater raft. Both just great experiences. One day we hiked a mountain, and I said to my kids when we got to the top, "Look around. This is the closest you will get to God in your lifetime." And that is how it felt. Serene, beautiful, picturesque, quiet, clean. I mean, truly God's country. You take a deep breath up there, you exhale, you look around. You don't get closer to God than that. You just don't. I fired up some John Denver on my iPhone, another thing from when I was little, and we camped. And we sang a bit, and we held hands, and we said a prayer. And that was as good or better than any mass I've ever been to at connecting me to the other side, to what matters, to a power higher than myself. One of the blessings we experienced was that my brother and his fiance were able to join us for most of the trip. Now, I have not done a week's vacation with my brother since we were still under our parents' roof. He lives down in Atlanta. He's 5 years older than I am. He is whip smart. His name's Pete. He's incredibly funny. Big personality. Can always keep the room going with conversation about something interesting, too. Really good at explaining things. He's a businessman who's personally faced the ups and downs of running a small business throughout Obamacare, the COVID nonsense, inflation, all of it. And I've learned a lot from him in terms of what's in the news and how it affects real businesses, real people, and in terms of my own life and lessons. Like, do not throw a sneaker at your older brother, or he may grab you by the head and shoot water up your nose from the kitchen sink. We were like oil and water when we were growing up. It's possible I occasionally pestered him, but we have since become very close. He coaches middle school football in his spare time. He loves sports. He loves gambling, poker, his family, his friends. But he is not a guy who takes a ton of physical risks. He's more of a cigar-loving golf course guy. So getting him out on a whitewater raft was a feat. And while he admitted not really wanting to do it, he and we all absolutely loved it. We laughed, we screamed, we got scared, we felt relieved, we mocked each other, we supported each other. We had a grand adventure together. The kind of thing you remember long after the fact, right? The kind of thing that bonds you to one another, whether it's your dear brother or it's your sweet, loving husband or it's your fun children, all of whom are experiencing this thing together. Now, there was this moment where we were going down a calm part of the Gallatin River, and the guide was telling us that sometimes it's so easy to make conversation with the group in his raft that a guide will forget to pay attention to what's ahead, rocks, sharp turns, and so on. And he said the simplest but most important rule of his job is don't forget to guide the boat. Just don't forget to guide the boat. And it occurred to me, and I told him at the time, the same applies to parenting. And it's true, right? These kids, whether it was Pete and yours truly growing up in upstate New York, figuring out the rules of life, or brother and sisterhood, or my own kids now, ages 12, 11, and 9, They have such strong personalities, likes and dislikes and character traits, which I believe undoubtedly they enter the world with. But there is some room for guidance, for a push now and then. Doug and I considered not doing this trip after Thatcher's injury in March. He's all healed up now, thank God, with a clean bill of health. He had to go 3 months with no contact sports. He had to sit out PE. He had to not do a bunch of stuff. We limited our travel and all that, but he is great. He's all healed up and his spleen is 100%. But, we're still, we worry. We worry. Mountain vacations do, as I said, have some inherent risk in them, and we've had enough hospital drama to last us for quite some time. But the solution, we already knew and wound up realizing again, to seeing one risk turn south is not to avoid other risks. Risk is a part of life, especially well-considered risk, right? This wasn't reckless stuff. As a parent, you guide the boat. You try to keep the child off too rough waters, but you don't leave the river. You don't pull the boat. We climbed a very rocky mountain one day, and falling on a rocky mountain trail in the winter in his snow boots was how Thatcher injured his spleen last spring and almost lost it. And when we navigated up that rocky mountain this time in the summer, we held his hand, had a little walking stick, and showed him the way. And he was a little scared, but he did it. He made it to the top, and at one point, we snapped a photo of him, this one here, wearing his little cowboy hat. Made it. Safely. And it felt amazing. So Thatcher climbed the mountain, and all of us, including Yates and my daughter Yardley, who you can see in this zip lining video, is now at age 11 as tall as I am and is absolutely loving life. Got on the zip line, 60 feet in the air, and zipped away. And we managed the bears and the snakes and the white waters joyfully and with a zest for life that fresh air and new experiences bring out in us all. And when we got on the plane and headed back east, carrying on all of our bags, of course, that's obvious, we all felt a little stronger, a little braver, a little better, more connected to God and to each other. And that's a lot to get out of a week's vacation. And I am grateful. Are you tired of feeling like someone's always watching you on the internet? Maybe the advertisers know just a little bit too much about you and it's getting creepy? Or you're concerned about the privacy of your identity. Using incognito mode will not solve the problem either. IPVanish VPN is here to protect your right to privacy and to help you stay anonymous online. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet without exposing your private details to third parties. You can use IPVanish on your computers, tablets, phones, even devices like your Fire Stick when you're streaming media. When you use IPVanish, all of your data is encrypted. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. It's that simple. IPVanish right now is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That is like getting 9 months for free. IPVanish is super easy to use as well. All you have to do is tap one button. You are instantly protected. Take your privacy back today with a brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. Go to ipvanish.com/Megyn and use that promo code Megyn to claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/MEGYN. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.